Hey folks, welcome back to the Lone Pine Tarot. For today's Pick a Card reading, we have another topic suggested by one of my lovely viewers underneath the post that's currently at the top of my community page. So for anyone else out there who ever wants to suggest a reading topic, I typically do about probably 99% to 100% of them that are suggested, because I do want to make this a channel where your voice also matters, of course. Making sure I make things that are interesting to you. So if that is something that interests you, you have a topic you want covered, feel free to also drop by that community tab page and leave some suggestions. And I typically record about a month to a few weeks in advance, so if you do suggest something, just know that it might not pop up for a little while, but generally I do tend to get to most of them. So anyways, without further ado, this was suggested by user HG7VR6UY3B. Thank you so much for the topic suggestion of how you make people feel. So we're going to get a little bit of a deep dive into how you affect other people in terms of their emotions, okay? So let's pick our piles. For pile number 1, I have the card Expect Miracles. For my lovely pile number 2, I have Honesty and Communication. And for my lovely pile number 3, I have, and this might sound kind of funny, but the subtitle for this one is No with an exclamation point. All right, feel free to pause right here if you still need some time to decide on which pile you would like read for you today, my lovely pile 1, 2s, and 3s. Otherwise, as always, the timestamps are down in the description box and the top pinned comment below the video. Drop to that description or the top pinned comment, click on the timestamp for your reading, and we'll see you in our discussion about how you make people feel. Bye. Hello, my lovely pile number 1s. Welcome to your Pick a Card reading today on the topic of how you make people feel. So, as you recall, the card used to pick your pile was Expect Miracles. A lot of golden light, some pink in here. Some almost looks like heart chakra vibes there too. And as always, we'll talk about your pile leader a little bit more in tandem with weaving it in with the other cards, but for now, we'll set this off to the left as usual. And first, let's draw out your Oracle cards, and then I will draw out some Tarot cards for you. So, Oracle cards for today from the Folklore Oracle. You received the card Luna. So we've got some moon vibes. The moon, at least in tarot, often means intuition. In Lenormand, it can mean emotions, the feminine energy, waxing and waning, changing. Reflection, specifically this card means. Okay, we'll talk about that more too in a bit. Your sacred destiny for today is, we have lovely, very cute, we have dolphins with happiness, some sunshine and waves. Okay, a lot of blue and yellow vibes so far, gold. Okay. I'm already getting the sense that you're, what's the best term for it, pile number 1s? I want to say spiritually advanced is probably the best phrase I would use for that. I'll talk about that more in a second, though. I feel like you've mastered a lot of the earth lessons, I guess is another way to put that. And then your Elle Qui for today is She Who Listens, Hannah, with the subtitle Understanding, Witness, Compassion. Yeah, I get teacher vibes off of you, pile number 1s. Spiritually advanced. You've been on Earth a lot. I feel like you're the type of person where your soul is oftentimes a teacher for others, an advisor for others. So I feel like just off the bat here already, pile number 1s, you're the type of person that people often come to when they need support and guidance and they need to pick me up. Someone who uplifts others. So far, that's what I'm seeing. Let's also get your tarot cards on the desk as well, though. Spirit, for my lovely pile number 1s, could you give me about 3 to 4 cards explaining how they make other people feel, please? Okay, we got 2 already there. That was pretty quick. I'm going to set these down just for 1 second, shuffled as they are, just to lay these two out. So number 1, you received the 7 of Wands, or sticks. This particular depiction is he's building like a tent shelter out of sticks and stones and leaves. However, traditionally the 7 of Wands is being defensive in some way or protective. Okay. We also have the Queen of Blades or Swords reversed. So typically the Queen of Swords is about internal mastery of communication or thought. Reversed, it can sometimes indicate troubles in this area. However, this is a how you make people feel type reading. So I would almost read that as kind of leaning on what I was saying before of you being more spiritually advanced, pile number 1s. I think maybe you intimidate people sometimes. I'll talk more about that though as we get to your other cards. Okay, and then having these shuffled just as they are, we're going to pick, let's see. I feel like this one's calling for us. We have the Lovers, okay. Probably pretty great with relationships, or at least even if you have had relationships that have failed, usually it wasn't your fault, I don't think. Probably a reflective, a reflection of your spiritual advancement. I think you get things a lot faster than other people when it comes to relationships here on Earth. I mean, I'll just say it bluntly. There's some people on Earth who are just not very good at relationships. You're not like that. You're the type of person that teaches other people this is how you do relationships, right? I mean, even here with the dolphins I'm seeing, it's kind of like there's one dolphin in the back that's a bit smaller and there's one that's larger, right? It's kind of like, okay, this is how we find happiness. This is how we leap forward, right? That type of thing. And then let's see, one more card. We'll pick this one. 8 of Stones, 8 of Pentacles. This is the card of hard work. Fruits of our labor. It can also mean the apprenticeship card. Hard working. Okay, pile number 1s. Okay, facet number 1. We already talked about, so I'll just rephrase it a little bit or reiterate a little bit. You're spiritually advanced. It depends on the person that we're talking about in terms of like, because the topic here is how you make people feel, right? So it really depends on the person you're interacting with. So people that are also spiritually advanced like you will probably recognize this pile number 1s. They'll probably see you as a fellow or even maybe a little bit more of a teacher in the area of spirituality to them. So in that way, you make people like that feel like you are someone to look up to, someone who knows spiritual things. I mean, even if you aren't the type of person that is blatantly like, here's how you talk to your spirit guides, or here's how you cleanse negative energies from your space, right? There's things that I feel like because you've lived so many lives, I'm getting the sense here, pile number 1s here on Earth, that you already just intuitively know here, especially with that moon energy of Luna. There's things you already intuitively know that, like I said, even if you don't necessarily say it out loud to people, it's like you've just got like a really quick instinct when it comes to spiritual matters. And so other spiritually attuned people will recognize that immediately as, oh, this person has been here a lot, I should listen to them, right? They know these spiritual things. People that are not as spiritually attuned, pile number 1s, how you make them feel with this particular facet, I would say it's almost like they won't recognize it as, oh, this person is spiritually advanced, but I think you might just kind of come off as wise. So they'll see it more on like a tangible level, I think, with you, pile number 1s. They'll just think, wow, pile number 1 really has good advice on everything. I don't know why that is, but they just do. So, depending on the person that we're talking about here that you're interacting with, depending on the, hypothetical situation, pile number 1s. But in general, for spiritually advanced people, you come off as a teacher. And for people that are not very spiritually advanced or attuned, you come off as just very wise is how they would see it, right? So that's number 1, how you make people feel, pile number 1s. You're very wise. You're good at advice giving. They make you, or you make them feel secure in terms of this is a person who is, a pile number 1, is a rock that is dependable and a good source of advice. Okay. That is especially too leaning into your Hannah here, she who listens. And it says understanding, witness, compassion. I mean, she's even got her hand over her heart, and it's like she's kind of like leaning in to listen. Tell me your troubles. I think, like I said before, you're a rock for people, pile number 1s. I think you make them feel more secure. You make them feel like everything is going to be just fine. You make them feel listened to. Hey, the other thing I was going to say at the beginning was I don't know if some of you maybe are like therapists in this life. Maybe some of you, you do this as a job of some sort of where you do a lot of listening and a lot of advice giving. Okay. That could even be you're literally a teacher of some sort. It could mean that even if it's not necessarily your job, that you are in your friendship and your family circles, and maybe even with romantic partners, you are a person that they will give them wise counsel. Okay. So you make people feel secure. You make people feel listened to. And I think the reason why is because you've had so many lives. You're so spiritually advanced, pile number ones, that you, what's the word? You know, it's kind of like when you, in your life, whenever you need advice, oftentimes a good piece of advice is to go to someone who is older than you, right? Oftentimes when we go to someone who is older than us, we think, well, they've been here a lot longer, so they're going to know more about having been through the trials of life, about how to deal with a certain situation I'm seeking advice on, right? You're that in a spiritual way for other people, okay? Even if, like I said, that maybe they're not spiritually attuned and they don't necessarily recognize it as, hey, this person's lived a lot of lives here on earth, right? Very wise, okay? I also see here with there's a lot of, and I mentioned this before, there's a lot of blue and yellow here. You see here you have blue with Luna, you have blue and yellow here with your happiness card. You also have a lot of like gold here with your expect miracles card that you used for your pile leader to pick, right? Same too, I think, especially because this is yellow, it kind of looks like heart chakra, but it could also be solar plexus chakra, which is generally associated with yellow, right? So I think that's why there's an abundance of yellow in that particular card. And what the solar plexus chakra is all about is confidence, okay? I think another thing is you inspire confidence in other people because of that advisor, mentorship, kind of advice type role you are for other people. I think you uplift them, you make them feel happy, you show them the way. I generally get the feeling that people see you as optimistic is probably a good phrase to use. And I think too, this Luna card in particular, the entry for it within the guidebook talks about it as, you know, I said before that the moon in tarot is like intuition, and in Lenormand it's like emotions. In this particular oracle deck, it's about reflections. Okay, that's what this particular card means. I think part of the way that you affect other people, and maybe part of the advice you give them, is that you give them a mirror to hold up, or you hold up a mirror to them to show them perspectives on themselves that maybe they didn't quite perceive before, or perspectives on the situation that they're going through that they didn't quite grasp. I think that's a skill of yours, and you're really good at being objective, pile number ones. You make people feel like you're an objective person to turn to, and that's kind of leaning into that advice giving role I was talking about earlier. But too, yeah, with all this yellow and gold here, optimism, you make people feel happier. I think, you know, a lot of your role here on Earth, at least so far, or at least part of your destiny here, has been to be of service to others. I think you probably even derive happiness from serving others, and maybe that's why you are so advice giving, right? So the way you make people feel in that term, or in that aspect, is you make them feel happier. You make them feel uplifted. You make them feel like everything will be just fine. So that's also kind of a part of being, you know, a rock to other people. It's not just the advice giving, but also, hey, you know, we'll weather through this just fine. That type of thing. You know, you probably even say that to people a lot. Pile number one's like, hey, it'll be fine. You know, this too shall pass. You know, insert phrase here that kind of means the same thing, right? Yes. And two, you know, especially with expect miracles, because that card is all about, you know, a lot of times in life, we don't really think that miracles can happen. We often, as humans, kind of think in a pessimistic way of, you know, oh, that'll never happen. Oh, I'll never get that thing. Oh, that'll never work out for me. This card is telling you to be a bit more, or not telling you to be a bit more, but it's saying that you're more of a person that tells other people to expect miracles. You most kind of make people believe in the magic of life. And I think that is kind of in tune with your spirituality there, pile number ones. So that's also kind of how you make them more happy, is you make them believe, not necessarily in miracles, but you make them feel like good can happen, okay? Not to look so much on the dark side. Find the silver linings in things, that type of thing. Looking too at your tarot cards here, let's see. especially with, okay, so this, I'm going to start with the Queen of Swords here with the Queen of Blades reversed, because it ties into your mentorship role and your spirituality, or your advanced spiritual state, I guess I should say. Pile number ones, I think you intimidate people with that Queen of Swords reversed. So typically in a reading, like I said, the Queen of Swords is all about internal mastery of communication and thinking and logical thinking, being sharp or astute, right? Reversed, it's kind of that in a negative way, and I don't mean that as in like a dig at you. I just mean that more as in, I think you come off so eloquent and you come off so wise that people kind of get intimidated by you sometimes, okay? I think you make them feel a little bit like, whoa, like this person is thinking way miles ahead of me. Like, not necessarily that they think that you're smarter. I mean, it's probably likely that you are, you know, just because you've been here so much, you know, just experience makes us smarter, right? But yeah, so it's kind of like, yeah, I guess intimidation is probably the best word I would use for that pile number ones. You intimidate people a little bit, and not in a scary way. You intimidate them more in a, wow, you know, pile number one sure is, you know, this person sure is, they I'll just say it bluntly, they know their shit. And so, I mean, so it has that kind of double-edged sword of, people sure love coming to you for advice, but sometimes you're so smart or so intuitive with this stuff, or wise, I guess is a better word, that they're kind of like, oh, that's a little scary, like, you know, they're always a step ahead of me. So maybe even people you come across that haven't been necessarily so nice to you in your life, pile number ones, they regret it later because they realize, oh, this person actually kind of had my number the entire time. So it's very unwise to underestimate you, I guess I would say, pile number ones. So for your enemies, you make them feel like, I can't really outsmart pile number one. And then for your friends, maybe sometimes you intimidate them a little bit in terms of the way you speak. It could be that you even come off very eloquently with your verbal communication, pile number ones. It could be that you're really good at writing. I can see that too. So both in the written and spoken word, I think, you know, you come off as very, yes, eloquent. You come off as more lofty in a positive manner. So that type of thing. Okay. Then we also have your three other tarot cards here. We have the Seven of Wands, we have the Lovers, and we have the Eight of Stones. Let's first look at the Seven of Wands over here on the left. So Seven of Wands, like I said when I pulled it out, this particular card is a man building kind of a lean-to shelter, right? In the woods. But traditionally, the meaning of the Seven of Wands is being defensive or holding off things, holding off a foe, right? I think you're very good at, how do I put it? So like I was saying before with the Queen of Swords reversed, you know, like sometimes, you know, if someone is an enemy to you, they soon regret it because they realize that you're a lot smarter than they thought, and that you're not going to okay, so how do I better word that? Combined with the Seven of Wands, I guess I would say pile number ones. Another reason why you intimidate, let's say, like an enemy of yours, so to speak, is because you don't let them get away with, I'll just say it, bullshit. Okay, this is the card of being defensive. This is the card of, I have the upper hand, and I'm the traditional depiction is someone beating down other people up on a wall, and they're on top, right? You're defensive. You're really good at defending your own. It could be you're very defensive of other people in your life too, like say your family and friends, or, you know, maybe you even found when you were a child, let's say you had a friend that was being bullied at school, you might have been the friend that probably would have stepped between them and the bully. That's kind of what I'm saying here with the Seven of Wands. So you make other people feel protected, I guess, is how I would interpret that for the reading topic, right? You make people feel protected. Not only listened to, not only uplifted, but protected. You're kind of almost a warrior vibe, pile number ones, but not so much with a sword, more so with a shield, okay? I think you care about other people a lot, not even just listening to them, but also actually defending them from things, okay? Yeah, that type of thing. So that's where kind of what I'm getting from the Seven of Wands. Now, looking at the Lovers and the Eight of Pentacles, this is interesting because, like, when I pulled the Lovers out, I said something about being really good at relationships. I think because you are so spiritually advanced, pile number ones, you often come off as the more mature person in relationships, you know, be it both friendships and romantic ones, you know, platonic or romantic, right? You are often in a teacher role for other people. And also, there you go, there's that yellow again, covered in yellow. Happiness, confident. Anyways, you're a teacher role for other people in relationships because you have been here so long or so many times, pile number ones, okay? And so I think in that aspect, interpreting it for the reading title of, how do you make other people feel? I think you're a reliable lover. I think people know that you're a secure partner to attach to or fall in love with. I think you make people feel comfortable in relationships. I think you come off as, how do I put it? It's kind of like when you're in a relationship with somebody and they feel like home to you. That's kind of how you come off to others. I'm seeing here with the lovers pile number ones. Okay. Also, are you more of a traditional romantic? I'm getting that more intuitively here. Old-fashioned with romance, maybe. So maybe you come off as a little bit old-fashioned, and I mean that isn't like a positive way when it comes to relationships. I think, you're the type of person who's like, okay, here's my one and only, maybe even you have a high school sweetheart type thing. That's kind of what I'm saying there, especially, it was like an intuitive message that came through. But yeah, in general, in terms of how you make other people feel, it could be a lot of the advice that you give to other people too is actually in the realm of romance, hence why the lovers came up, okay? And so you make people feel stable in relationships with you and then also in relationships with other people in terms of the role of giving them advice. So that type of thing, pile number ones. Excuse me, I'm going to take a drink because my voice is getting just a tad scratchy. It's a very dry time of year where I'm living right now, so pardon my pause. And then, of course, we have the Eight of Pentacles, right? Over here on the right. There's a child gardening, and it looks like an older couple watching as the child waters the plants, right? This is the card of hard work. This is the card of apprenticeship. Once again, we see kind of a mentor-apprentice role here, or advisor, and then a person learning, an apprentice type thing. I think at work, too, you're also really good at giving people advice, pile number ones. Because the Eight of Pentacles is often about work, hard at work, learning, mastering things. And especially with gardening is the metaphor here in this particular deck. Gardening is something that takes a lot of diligence. It takes a lot of paying attention to things. I think you're really good at your career, pile number ones. I think you pay attention to the details. So in terms of like at least how you make people feel at work, it's kind of that same reliable vibe I'm getting off of you as I did with like the advisor role we were talking about before. But you're also heavily reliable at work. So I think, if you have a manager, your manager knows you as the person that, okay, if I need shit done, I go to pile number one and they're going to get it done. Okay. It could also be too that they see you as someone who's a very good, trainer in of other people at your job. It could be even, I was saying before, maybe some of you actually are teachers, and so your whole job is teaching other people things. It could be, children with education, obviously, or it could be you teach, maybe some classes that are not children education, maybe even like adult education, that type of thing. Yeah, but just a hard worker in general. So you come off as a hard worker to other people. They know that they can rely on you. They know that you're going to get it done, and you're going to get it done right, pile number ones, okay? That type of thing. All right, I'm going to look over your cards again here, just make sure I didn't miss anything. Or I also will see if there's any intuitive messages popping out to me here, my lovely pile number ones. Okay. Uno momento. Yeah, lots of yellows and blues. I'm just going to pull out maybe one more card here, pile number ones for you. I'm going to ask a specific question of Spirit too. Spirit, for my pile number ones, for their happiness card, could you give me a tarot card more, explaining that a little bit more? How do they uplift others? Oh, okay, well that was fast. Alright, so we got two cards. We got the Devil reversed and the Tower. Oh boy. Okay, those are powerful cards. So pile number ones, explaining the Devil and the Tower. The Devil reversed is all about freeing things, freeing people from addictions, freeing people from the things that chain them. Okay, reversed. And then the Tower is all about letting go of old things to make way for new things. And oftentimes the Tower is, it's a card representing a stage in life where something needs to come down first before new foundations can be built for something better. So I think pile number ones, you make people happy because there's something about the way you give advice where it's specifically really good about helping them rebuild after disaster, or helping them rebuild or free themselves from things that are chaining these people down, okay? It could be that oftentimes people come to you with gripes about, oh, this thing I've been building for a long time is just not working out, or gripes about, God, I feel so trapped by this thing. And the way that you bring happiness to them is you show them you can free yourself and you can rebuild, okay? That's what I'm seeing there with these two cards having popped out for your happiness card is kind of more explainer cards. I guess is the best way to describe that. Yes, you make people feel like there is a way out. You make people feel like there is a silver lining. You make people feel that there is like a light after the night, or a dawn after the dark, I guess I should say. That type of thing. So you're especially good at making people feel like there is hope when everything is seeming to go wrong. That's kind of what Spirit is telling you here with those two cards, okay, pile number 1. So to summarize, so I'll just go over the whole reading. You're really, really good at being an advisor to other people. For the spiritually attuned, they can tell you've been here a lot. They can tell you're very spiritually wise. For the people that are not spiritually attuned, you come off as just a very wise person, okay? I almost kind of see an old soul. Like, you kind of come off as, knowing a lot more than you should for your particular age or your experiences. I think because you are so good about incorporating previous life experiences into this one and sharing that wisdom with others. So that's aspect number 1. Aspect number 2, optimistic. You uplift people. You make them feel happy, especially when things seem like the darkest. Okay. That's what we talked about there. Your Luna card we talked about earlier, kind of hidden right now by those tarot cards, is all about being reflective. So I think you're really good about giving other people perspectives objectively that they might not have considered before, kind of tying into that really good at advice mentor role we talked about. You are defensive. You protect people with that 7 of Wands. Sometimes you might even intimidate people a little bit with your intelligence with the Queen of Swords we saw here reversed. Okay. And people that are your enemies, learn soon not to underestimate you. It is a mistake to underestimate you, especially with your wit, I guess, as I would say, or your intelligence there with that Queen of Swords. Very good at relationships, reliable in relationships. You make people feel like you are a good partner to commit to. Maybe a little bit old-fashioned with romance, more of a romantic, right? And then also the 8 of Pentacles stones here tells me that you are someone who is very reliable at work, too. You're a hard worker. You come off as the person that can, like I said before, you can get shit done. So if a manager is thinking, okay, who on my team I can rely on that I want to give this project to, usually it's probably you, pile number 1s, because of that, okay? So that was a summary of your reading. So if I were to call you one thing, I would probably say the reliable mentor. That's kind of your archetype here, I would say, pile number 1s, in terms of how you make other people feel. You're kind of like, what's a good example? You're like Gandalf from Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit to other people. That's how I would summarize you if you're familiar with fantasy literature. So you're a Gandalf. So pile number 1s, I hope that reading was helpful for you. I hope it uplifted you. I hope it brings more spring into your step today. And I hope it makes you recognize just how much of a positive impact you've had on the lives of others around you so far in your life. I wish you a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you in the next reading. Bye. Hello, my lovely pile number 2s. Welcome to your pick a card reading today on the topic of how you make people feel. As you recall, the card you used to pick your pile was honesty and communication. So we have this is from the Angel Guide Oracle. We have an angel here with some throat chakra vibes here, speaking her truth, being honest with other people, that type of thing. Of course, we always talk about your pile leader a little bit more in tandem with the other cards, so I'm just going to set your pile leader off to the left here as always. And we're going to look at your oracle cards first, and then also draw some tarot cards to explain more about how you make people feel. So without further ado, let's look at the Folklore Oracle you received today. The card Birch. The Birch Tree. New beginnings. Light. That type of thing. We'll talk about that more in a second. Your Sacred Destiny card for today is Inner Peace. You have a very watery vibe, pile number 2s. Not only with the koi fish here, but also there's kind of a water vibe here with the honesty and the swirls of blue with your pile leader. I don't know, maybe if you're a water sign. I think, don't birch also grow close to water? I think they do. I should know. Birch grow in the area that I live in. I should know that. I can look that up in a second or after the video. But anyways, your Elle Qui is Isra, she who dreams, escape, dreams, fantasy. Yep, very watery vibes. I don't know. A little bit of wind here too with kind of the wind blowing through the leaves here, but... Well, also air too in general, because the air element in tarot is about like communication. And you also received, I mean, the card you picked was honesty and communication. So maybe air or maybe a water sign I'm getting for you, pile number 2s. I didn't get a specific sign with pile number 1s, but I am with you guys. All right, maybe a bit of a dreamer. Make people feel fanciful. All right, and then we're going to draw your tarot cards. Spirit, for my lovely pile number 2s, could you describe how they make other people feel, please? About 4 cards, please. Flip out or stand out. Okay, well, I said flip out and one flipped out right as I said it. Okay, thank you. All right, we have the 6 of stones, or as it's known as pentacles in most decks. Okay, another watery vibe here. An aquatic animal. I don't understand exactly what that is. Might be a salamander of some sort, but definitely amphibious sort of looking, right? Water. 6 of Pentacles reversed is about, normally upright it's about charity, equal balance. Reversed it can mean imbalance of some sort in terms of the monetary worlds. So we'll interpret that for the reading topic in a second. So nothing negative, I promise. Okay. Next up, we have the 8 of Stones, another Pentacles card. 8 of Stones reversed, which normally is upright is the card about hard work. Reversed, it can mean needing more hard work for something. Could mean things kind of come easy to you. You don't have to work so hard at things. Could be that you're naturally just kind of a naturally talented at a lot of different things. Maybe in school it didn't ever really feel like you had to struggle with much. Anyways, okay, we have the card of Temperance, okay? We have balance. Very balanced in life. Good with both the feminine and masculine. It could be that in your life you don't generally trend towards either. Okay, and then we have a 4th card here. I'm going to pick this one. We have the 5 of Vessels, or 5 of Cups, is the card of grief, or moving on beyond grief. We have a robin squawking at I believe that is that a milk snake? I'm not sure exactly what variety, but, or breed, I should say. Okay, pile number 2s. So, right off the bat, like I said before, I get the feeling that you are either a water or an air sign, and you are a person who speaks very honestly. You are a person who when people come to you, pile number 2s, they know that you're going to tell them the truth. So I guess, and to interpret that for the reading topic, you make people feel like they can be honest. You make people feel inspired to be more honest and communicative. It could be you also inspire other people to just talk more. It could be that your job in your day-to-day life is something to do with communication. Now that could mean writing. That could mean more kind of a teacher role, like pile number 1s was, or were, I should say, excuse me. Poor grammar. It could also mean that you, in your day-to-day life, are someone who you focus on speaking the truth, or you focus on making other people speak their truths. So I guess I would say to interpret that pile number 2s in a different manner too, is you inspire people to feel confident about speaking truthfully. Okay, is how I would summarize that. Let's see here. It could also mean, I think some of you might be writers as well, because you also had Isra here, and this is the card of She Who Dreams, right? It could be even that maybe you just read fantasy or sci-fi, speculative fiction. Could even mean horror too. That can also be under the speculative fiction umbrella, right? Especially combined with honesty and communication. I get like a writing vibe here. So it could mean that, you know, you make other people feel inspired or imaginative because maybe that is an area that you do write in, okay? A lot of times, you know, like myself included, when we read fantasy or sci-fi or horror, we get kind of inspired to feel more fanciful, you know, to believe in the magic of life, that type of thing. Yeah, I get like I don't know if it's young adult fiction or adult fiction, but like speculative fiction for sure. I think you probably have an interest in pile number 2, so okay. Yeah. You bring the magic into life for people. hmm on top of that too, with that Easter card, I think even if it isn't like a writing thing that you do, in the way that you communicate to other people, pile number 2 is it's like you make them feel like they can believe in things happening that are like almost magical. You know what? I don't know if a lot of you were drawn to pile number 1s. Pile number 1s had a very similar vibe to you. Pile number 2s. If you were drawn to pile number 1 too, you might want to view that reading as well. But in general, 2 is here. You're like, yeah, you make people believe in the magic of life. You make people believe in like the sparkle of things. Not necessarily like the silver lining. It's not like an optimism thing. It's more, it's kind of, unveiling a little bit or kind of pulling back, the mundanity of life, making things seem less mundane, that type of thing. So I don't know too, maybe you work with children. That can mean some of the more fantastical, or be related to some of the more fantastical aspects that are coming in here for you, pile number 2s. Or if you don't work with children, it could be an indicator that you probably would work pretty well with children. Because that's another thing about children too. Children are, what's the word? Very unfiltered. They don't really have a filter on the way that they speak. So maybe you would get along too with children there, with that kind of honesty and communication combined with like the fantasy here. Maybe even writing children's fantasy if that's of interest to you, or if you already do that. That's one of the ways you can make people feel, in terms of like with children now too, is making them believe in the magic of life, too. A lot of people read fantasy and science fiction to kind of escape from life a little bit. So you can make people maybe feel like, more comforted in times of darkness when they do need a little bit of an escape, pile number 2s, through writing, or maybe even just kind of the way that you, dreamily describe the world to other people. Yeah, you kind of come off as a bit of a dreamer too, I think, to other people. You make people feel like, if they have like a wild idea, they could come to you with it, and you would kind of dream along with them. That's kind of what I'm seeing for you, pile 2s here. Interesting too is the inner peace card. So that's, when that first popped out, I thought maybe you were a water sign. But this card in general means, kind of what it says on the tin, inner peace. I think you come off to other people as like a very, it's not stabilizing element. You come off to them as more like soothing. That's the better word. You're soothing to people. I think you make people feel not healed, but like, what's the best way to describe it? I'm sorry, I keep pausing a little bit, but I want to make sure I get like the very, very direct, correct answer or word for this. I want to say soothing. I'm going to go with soothing. You're very soothing to others, pile number 2s. You make people feel calm. You make people feel more down to earth. You make people feel more, like maybe you're really good with soothing people down from, like, if they have a temper, maybe you're really good at soothing people down from times of crisis or sadness. That's maybe part of where you get this almost fanciful vibe here with Isra, in that you uplift them through fantasy and through believing in the magic of life, that type of thing, so that it calms them down, so that they can find that inner peace and they can be more, okay with how their life is going, or, at least there's a little bit of a shelter from the storm in you for these other people, pile number 2s, okay? I don't know. I'm trying to see intuitively if there's more about the inner peace card here. I'm almost saying it's kind of connected here with the temperance card, because that's the card about balance. Yeah, it's like you bring balance to other people's lives. It's interesting. Especially too with the 6 of Pentacles, because normally the 6 of Pentacles is like a balance scale kind of card, because it's about equal distribution. Yeah. You bring balance to people's lives, pile number 2s. Very interesting. I might pull another tarot card later for this card. Actually, I'm going to do that right now before I forget. Spirit, for pile number 2s, can you give me a card that explains more about like how they make people feel at peace? I'm getting the sense it's probably something to do with that fantastical escapism aspect I was talking about before, but I want to make sure. How do they make people feel at peace? I'm going to pick this card. We have the 10 of Sticks or Wands reversed, releasing burdens. You make people feel at peace because you release burdens off of them, pile number 2s. That's, bam, came out right there. Making people feel at peace. It could be, like I said, through the written word. It could also be through music. Here we have someone playing a guitar. Through stories. I mean, you know, what is mankind's oldest hobby but sitting around a fire and telling stories, right? Yeah, I get writer story vibes off of you. You know what, pile number 2 is, if you haven't written before, you might want to explore that avenue. I'm just telling you right now because you're getting like blaring neon signs writer vibes here. Storyteller, yeah. You release people's burdens through the art of word, of the art of communication, be it music or writing. Okay. Or storytelling verbally. Yeah. Oh, lovely. You're lovely, pile number 2s. Of course, all my piles are lovely, but I feel like I would get along with you very well in real life. So, and then you also have the Birch card. So Birch, like I said when I first pulled it out, that is the card of new beginnings. It is the card of light. I think there's some aspect of you where, like, you know, sometimes in life when there's people stuck in a certain situation where they feel like there's no end in sight, or they feel like they can't find a new beginning of any sort. Once again, this is a lot like pile number 1s. But yeah, like people, they feel like there's no, or they get like jaded in adulthood. That's another thing I'm getting here intuitively. You're the type of person that makes people feel like they can be a child again, at least in terms of like getting in tune with their inner child more. You know, like let's say, what's a good example? Like let's say you have a friend that's, this is really weird, but like, just here hypothetically, let's say you and a friend were at a park, okay, just like a public park, right? And, you know, your friend might be the more like serious type that's like, oh, well, I can't go on the swings because I'm an adult and I'm an adult. You know, adults don't, you know, go and swing on the swing. That's for children, right? You're the person that would say, hey, you know what, it's fun, who cares what we look like, let's just go swing on the swing set together as adults. And you would be the type of person that could actually convince someone that's very like serious and kind of like, you know, reserved like that to actually participate more in the fun of life in terms of more childish, in a positive aspect, I mean, childlike ways, okay? That type of thing. You're very youthful feeling. I think you make people feel young again. I think you make people feel like more in touch with that feeling that we all have when we're children, where everything will be all right. You know, there's still the feeling of magic in life. There's still the feeling of hope for the future. Not that adults don't feel that. It sounds really pessimistic. I don't mean it that way, but you know what I mean? As when we become adults, we kind of get jaded sometimes, is what I'm trying to say. And you help people find and get back in touch with that childlike energy, okay? In a very, very positive way. And that's what I mean by releasing burdens, okay? You release burdens off of people, pile number 2s. Okay, you make them feel young again, young at heart, okay? It could even be that you're very in touch with your inner child. And once again, too, if you don't work with children, that might also be a really good thing for you to work on, or maybe if you're looking for some direction in terms of career, I think you would do really well to either work with children or work with adults to refine their childhood. Okay. Anyways, okay, so that's more of a career advice. We're talking about how you make people feel, right? But I just wanted to say that because it came out intuitively. So let's see. You also have the... what do we do next? We talked about temperance. That's about balance in life. Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying before too, with the feeling like an adult and feeling like a child thing. You make people feel like they can bring more balance of lightheartedness into their life with kind of that childlike nature. Okay. Everything doesn't have to be so serious all the time, is what you're always telling people. I feel like pile number 2 is it's not like you don't, it's like, okay, you don't tell people to like lighten up, but you inspire other people to feel like it's okay to not be serious all the time. It could also be that you're very good at comedy, pile number 2s, especially with honesty and communication here. It could be that you're really, you know, quick-witted and you're kind of funny, and then you make people laugh. So maybe there's a little bit more bringing balance into life of more light too, where you uplift their spirit through like comedic type things or being witty or funny, right? That type of thing here, especially with temperance, I'm seeing. Yeah, I mean, because you see here, it's very specific. I want to point this out. You see here with this card where the focal point or the point of view character is way back here. You just see like a leg and an arm on the chain. And you have another person up here that's like right by the rising or the setting sun, right by the light. You're that person, pile number 2, saying, here's the way to the light. Follow me with this very clear marker I've given you to follow and hold your hand onto on the rope, right? You show people the way to the light, okay? You show people the way to finding happiness, finding more lightheartedness in life, pile number 2, okay? I'm going to take just one little break to take a drink. My voice is a little bit scratchy today. Apologies for the pause. I live in a very dry climate right now, so where I'm at in the winter, it gets pretty dry here, so my voice gets a little kind of eeky. Anyways, okay, so we talked about balance. That too with the 6 of Pentacles reversed to your pile number 2s. Typically that means an imbalance in terms of charity. To read it for this reading of how you make people feel, though, I would say it's almost like, how do I describe it? One second. Apologies for the pause. I'm just asking a little bit of guidance from Spirit here to explain it correctly to me. There's something to do with unfairness or showing people fairness or unfairness, I am being told. It's something to do with you make people feel like it's either that you show people where they're being treated unfairly. You know what? That's what it is. Yeah. Okay. You show people where they're being treated unfairly. So you know how sometimes in life, like let's say you have a friend who I'm just going to use a hypothetical example. Okay, let's say you have a friend that's in a relationship with someone who is not a very good partner. We'll just put it that way, right? And, you know, maybe they've in their life been kind of conditioned to accept having a bad partner or like accepting abuse. You're the type of friend that would go to them and say, hey, there's an unfairness going on here. And that ties in with your honesty and communication. People know you're going to tell the truth, okay, pile number 2s. They know you're going to be an honest person. You show the unfairness in their life and say, hey, I don't think that relationship is working out for you. You're not pushy about it. I mean, you're not like trying to tell them, you know, my way or the highway, or you better do this because I'm smart or whatever, etc. But like, you show them very, I think it's because you are so focused on bringing people to the light here, pile number 2s. Like you're a light bringer. And so when you see unfairness in other people's lives, you show that to them. And so in that way, you know, tying it to the title of the video, you know, how do you make these people feel? You make people feel the truth. You make people feel realization about where there's an imbalance in their lives, where there's unfairness, okay? And so in that case, you're pretty good at advising other people, I think, too, pile number 2s, just like pile number 1s were. But instead of, you know, like pile number 1s are more in like an advisor-mentor role of being like an advisor to other people. You're more that way in terms of example or trying to bring more light into their life, okay? You're almost like, I don't know if any of you have ever read Shakespeare, but when I was in college, I had a whole entire class on Shakespeare, and one of the tropes that Shakespeare employed was that oftentimes the jester or the fool in his plays came off as really silly, but they often were the wisest character of the entire play. Okay, that's what I'm being told intuitively about you, pile number 2s. You're like the jester that's really wise, and some people think, oh, haha, funny. But then they realize, oh, actually, that person was trying to help me through their comedy, or the light that they were trying to bring, or the levity that they were trying to bring in. So you might not directly be honest in terms of like, hey, that isn't working for you, but you might use comedy or other more uplifting manners, or matters, vehicles maybe is a better word for that, to uplift people. You're like the jester or the fool in a Shakespeare play. And I mean that in a very positive manner. I don't mean that as in like, you know, oh, haha, you're a funny man in a hat, right? You're wise in an underhanded, subtle, comedic way, where people might think, oh, haha, it's just funny on the surface, but actually you're being pretty damn smart. You're giving them advice. It just doesn't sound like advice because, you know, I think a lot of times in life, sometimes the best advice, okay, so advice is kind of like a medicine, right? And sometimes advice like medicine, can be pretty bitter. You're the person that might sprinkle a little bit of sugar on top. Excuse me, my voice is a bit scratchy. You're the person that will sprinkle a little bit of sugar on top to give them that medicine. That's that comedy I was talking about. So very funny person, I think. You make people laugh, pile number 2. Same thing too, I talked about here with the Eight of Pentacles reversed. Normally that's the card of hard work. Reversed for this topic, I would see it as someone that almost feels like, I don't know if in school you never really had to struggle. I think things come to you pretty easily, pile number 2. Is not in terms of like, it's not that you don't work for it. I think it's just that with your quick wit, I think things just come to you faster than other people. So maybe in school you had an easier bit of a time with learning certain topics. It could be even that you're a gardener too. That's the card of gardening there too. But yeah, very happy, positive card. Things come to you easily. I want to see if there's any other intuitive messages with that. One moment. Yeah, just bringing flowers into people's life. You bring a lot of beauty to people's lives. You show people to stop and smell the roses. Yeah, you're just, if I had to describe it, pile number 2, is you're like sparkle and sunshine. That's kind of that's what I'm being told. Sparkle and sunshine. I don't know, maybe if you were born in the spring or summer. Okay, and then we also have the 5 of Cups. We talked about earlier, the 5 of Cups is all about grief, sorrow, moving on from sorrow. We have a robin whose eggs are about to be stolen by a snake. She's pretty upset for obvious reasons. Her babies are going to get stolen, right? So this card, interpreting this for the how you make people feel, I think that ties in a lot with this happiness you bring to other people. Pile number 2 is in that you know, it's almost like, okay, so there's one facet here I want to talk about first. It's kind of like we were saying before about showing the unfairness in people's lives through humor. We have a robin here who's calling, making noise, saying, hey, these eggs are getting stolen, right? Pay attention to this. There's something sad in your life. There's something bad that's going to happen. So I think like you make people feel like you're almost like, oh, what is it? Canary in the coal mine? Yeah, you're like a canary in the coal mine for other people too, pile number 2s. Like you're the one that might squawk a little bit when you're like, hey, that thing there's something bad going on here. Maybe you should pay attention to that. There might be a little bit of a gas leak here in the mine. Squawk. You might want to pay attention to that. That's kind of a role that you have in other people's lives. Pile number 2 is where, and you do it in a very elated manner with levity. Like I said, with that comedic humor, whatnot, that uplifting, that beauty, like the flowers. But, you look out for people or other people in that way. Pile number 2s. You try to direct them away from sorrow of the 5 of Cups. That too, maybe even just helping people get over sorrow. I think you also make people feel, I don't know if you have any friends that might be a little like depressed or something like that. If you do, I think you're a very, very positive impact in their lives and making them feel better. Okay, pile number 2s. Yeah, it's almost too like you make laughter out of the sorrows of life. You make people see their troubles in a way where it's not so hard to bear them anymore, is what I'm being told. That type of thing. I'm going to see if there's any other intuitive messages here before I sign off with you, pile number 2s. Yeah, you're like the wise jester. You're funny. You're really honest. You're fantastical. You're magical. Where you make people feel the magic in life. You make people feel the magical wonder of childhood again. But you do it in a way that relieves burdens, brings peace to other people, makes them believe in new beginnings and light, shows them the unfairness in their lives, helps them get over grief and sorrow, okay? You show people, the beauty in life, how to balance life between optimism and pessimism. That type of thing. You have I'm getting told golden soul. Very golden soul. You're a sparkle and sunshine, like we said before. A bright spot of sunshine on the planet. Is how I would describe you, pile number 2s. You just you cast sunshine into other people's lives. Yeah, that type of thing. All right, well, my lovely pile number 2 is my lovely sparkle and sunshine jesters. As silly as that sounds, you play very what's the word? Important pivotal role in other people's lives and uplifting them. Okay. So I hope that reading was helpful for you. I wish you a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the next reading. Bye. Hello, my lovely pile number threes. Welcome to your pick a card reading today on the topic of how you make other people feel. As you recall, the card you used to pick your pile was the angel card of No. So on the tin, this card, like I said when we were picking the piles, seems kind of negative or kind of funny there with the no with the exclamation point. But basically what this card means is a card of setting boundaries and knowing when to say no. So I'll talk about that a little bit more as we talk about your other cards, of course. But just kind of as a preliminary, this is a card of upholding boundaries. So I already get the feeling with you, pile number three, is that you're a person who is really good at defending or guarding things. So we'll talk about more about how that ties in with how you make other people feel in a second. We'll set your pile leader off to the left for now. And then we're going to go over your oracle cards, and then I'll pull some tarot as well. So without further ado, your folklore oracle for today was, we have the owl, wise. Wisdom usually is associated with the owl, especially in Greek mythology with Athena, right? Goddess of wisdom. Oftentimes in many cultures, the owl was seen as a messenger of death or a messenger from the spirit world. So it could be that you're actually someone pretty in tune with the other side. I don't know, maybe if you've got some medium things going on, or maybe you're very spiritually attuned. Apologies if you hear a meow in the background. Okay. Your sacred destiny here is change. Yeah, transitionary type. And once again, I get a feeling of being in tune with the other side. I know this is about how you make other people feel, but I'm getting kind of a... Have you had a lot of death in your life, pile number threes? Anyways, we'll talk about that in a second. Sorry, I'm getting a lot of intuitive stuff for you. I want to keep going and picking the cards out, but I also want to get the messages out too, right? And then your Elle Qui here is Pearl, she who rises up, empower, uplift, elevate. Even too with the hot air balloon. Uplifting. Empowering. So I'm already getting the sense that one of the ways you make other people feel, pile number three, is you make people feel like they can have boundaries. You know, we talked about with your pile leader with no, that's the card of holding boundaries, being able to say no. You fight for the underdog. You uplift people to make them feel like they can fight for themselves, or they can say no, that they can, you know, search for greater happiness in life. That's already what I'm intuitively getting for you here, pile number threes, with your oracle cards. Yeah, a lot of, I intuitively got guardian of the doorway. That's interesting. Huh, okay, I'm gonna pull your tarot cards too. Oops, sorry, that was my chair. My chair makes a big click noise sometimes. Spirit for pile number threes, could you give me about 4 cards explaining how they make other people feel? Hey, you're getting intuitive messages up the yahoo here. Never really had a pile that got this so much at once. Anyways, all right, let's pick. We have 6 of Pentacles. Pile number 2's got this, but reversed. 6 of Pentacles or stones is the card of equal distribution of specifically material things usually, because it's Pentacles. Okay. I'm going to pick this one. We also have the Moon. Yeah, you're intuitive, pile number 3s. I don't know if you know that. You probably already do. Medium vibes I'm getting. This is the card of intuition. Sometimes it can also mean illusions. What's real, what's not, what's the dog and what's the coyote, or what's the wolf and what's the coyote or the fox. Yeah, you've got, I want to say this, and I mean this very positively, you have very eccentric vibes in a very positive manner. I'm just going to say that. You're very mystical. That's probably a better word. All right. Yeah, you've got, wow, a lot of intuitive stuff. Hanged Man. Different perspectives. Seeing things from different perspectives. Yeah. Pile 3s, you have abilities. I don't know if you know that, but if you don't, look into that. I'm getting really strong here. And then we have the Ace of Swords or Blades reversed. Ace of Swords typically is a card of what's the best way to put it? New thoughts, new ideas. Reversed, it can mean searching for a new idea. It can mean having a lack of new ideas. Specifically for this type of reading, though, I would say how you make other people feel. Something to the effect of, and we'll get more into detail with this later, but something to the effect of helping people find new paths or new ways of thinking. That's how I would describe that. Okay, so let's, where do we start? Pile number 3s. I'm going to reiterate, I'm pretty sure you have abilities. I'm pretty sure, I know this is a reading about how you make other people feel. But I'm getting like neon flashing sign here. Medium specifically. And if you're not familiar with that type of spirituality, that's talking to the dead specifically. So, I don't know if you know that, but this is, pretty strong. In terms of how that makes other people feel, though, pile number 3s, I would say, I think you make people feel like, what's the best way to describe it? You give off a mystic vibe. You know, pile number 1s and 2s both had kind of advisor, mentor feelings they gave other people. I think you're the same, but you're more so in a mysterious, mystical way. I think you make people feel like you're mysterious. You're kind of, you know things sometimes that you shouldn't, quote unquote. Once again, I think you have abilities, like I said, but I think, too, especially with the moon and the owl, too, like just great intuition. You're really good at, like, I don't know if you've ever had an experience in life before where, like, let's say you were talking to a friend or a family member about something, and they were like, oh, I wonder how that'll go, and you said something to the effect of, well, I'm pretty sure it'll go this way, and then, like, there's no way you could have actually known that it would go that way, but it did, and then the person came back to you and was like, hey, wait a minute. Actually, you were right. I feel like that might happen to you a lot, pile number 3. So in terms of how that makes other people feel, it's like they just know that you have this knowing. This very, I also don't know if you have a piercing gaze. I didn't really get physical traits with the other piles, but with you I'm getting something with your eyes. Piercing. Yeah. Yeah, you give me psychic vibes all over. I'm sorry, I'll quit reiterating, but whoa. I think, too, if you are familiar with that, or even if you aren't, you probably would be pretty good at it. Powerful, that's the word. So you give off a mystical vibe. You make people feel like you have a knowing. Like you're someone that just, you intuitively kind of just know things. Maybe it's almost you feel like people feel like they can't hide anything from you because you are so good at picking up on stuff like that. That too. Let's see if there's anything else I pick up here with, we talked about the psychic thing. That's number 1. Another thing too, I think we touched on this before, but I want to elaborate a bit more. We talked about with your pearl here, she who rises up, empower, uplift, elevate, right? Someone who, especially in conjunction here with the hot air balloon, because what does a hot air balloon do but rise to? And even an owl, which is a flying animal, right? Uplifting other people in the way of, combined with your pile leader over here, the no, that's the card of having boundaries. Uplifting people to feel like they can put up boundaries with other people. Uplifting people to feel like they can defend themselves and defend their own. Showing people that they don't, what's the best way to put that? That they can be warriors instead of victims is what I'm being told intuitively for you, pile number 3s. So I don't know. It's like you inspire confidence in other people. And not in, like, the traditional way of, like, oh, here's how you be charismatic and confident in the way you speak to other people. You make other people feel confident. It's almost in the way, it's like that eccentric thing I was talking about earlier. You make people feel confident in being themselves or searching for what makes them feel happy because you lead by example. Because you do that in your own life, and people look to you and they're like, oh, well, hey, pile number 3 is doing the thing that makes them happy. Well, why can't I? That type of thing. Too, with the boundaries, it's almost like, you're not, I don't get the sense that you're a very, like, direct confrontation type person. That was more, I think pile number 1 was like that. You, pile number 3, are more really good at setting boundaries or showing other people how to set boundaries in terms of, like, subtle, soft power. Okay? Typically the way this is described in spiritual circles is like feminine energy, right? There's the structure and authority and defensiveness of the masculine energy, but in terms of it, interpreting it for like the feminine here, like I'm feeling with you, pile 3, is it's that subtle. Oh, it's like the way, like, okay, if someone's gonna mess with you, pile number 3, is you're really good about shutting them down in a way that they almost don't even recognize that you shut them down. I don't want to say crafty because that's like a negative connotation. You almost make people feel like they know intuitively that they can't really mess with you because, oh, but they don't even know that you're like walking circles around them. Oh, you're funny. I love you. You really, yeah, you're talented with the soft power, I guess is how I would say that. So people kind of know, not to mess with you just because it's like they don't even recognize that you did outsmart them or that you did outwit them, but they just know that messing with you never works. So they're like, ah, screw it. So I think that's part of where your intuition too comes in here, pile number 3, is that you get people so easily. You just see things so piercingly. It's like that piercing eye thing I was talking about earlier. Yeah. So it's like in terms of how you make other people feel, like they look at you and they know that you just know. Like they can't get things past you. You might frustrate some people, pile number 3 is, and I mean that positively because you frustrate the people that might want to mess with you. So that's a good thing, actually, technically. Yeah, and then, yeah, uplifting other people, not so much with, like, the traditional methods of, like, oh, here's how you be happy, or here's a funny joke. You uplift people in terms of, like I said, with that boundary thing, you know, teaching other people how to say no, or leading by example of saying no to, you know, say society with your eccentricity, and being yourself, okay, that type of thing. Being what's the word? Genuine, unique, being authentic. Yeah, that's probably the best word. Authenticity. Yep, that type of thing. What you see is what you get. You know, especially too, in terms of tying that with the moon card. So the moon card can mean intuition, especially in Lenormand, it tends to mean like emotions or intuition, right? And then the high priestess in tarot is she has a moon on her head, and that's like intuition. The moon specifically, though, is often about intuition in terms of illusions, right? What's real, what's not, what's the boundary between reality and fantasy, that type of thing. So I think with other people, you make them feel like, oh, what's the best way to describe it? You make them feel like, oh, it's really hard to get it. I'm sorry, I'm pausing here and I'm like stuttering, but you make them feel, okay, it's what I was saying before with like the what you see is what you get. You being so authentic, pile number 3 helps other people feel like they can see through the illusion of society. Does that kind of make sense? It's a little vague. I'm going to give maybe an example here. So, for example, like let's say, oh, what's a great example? It's almost like you point out the things in life to other people about society that just don't make sense. Like, okay, at least in Western society, a good example is obsession with symbols of wealth, right? Like, let's just say that. Like, someone buys a Tesla, and for example, like other people might see that as, you know, oh, that person is wealthy and well-to-do in life because they have the symbol of wealth, and then that person, you know, not always, but sometimes people will buy, say, like a Tesla to come off as like, look at me and my money, right? But like you're the type of person that would point that out and be like, oh, well, they're just doing that because it's, you know, it's that knowing, that piercing knowing that you have, where you would point out and say, well, they're just doing that because they feel insecure about their own wealth. That's why they're projecting it out into the world like that and trying to, it's like the quote from Hamlet, I believe it was from Hamlet's mother, where it's like, the lady doth protesteth too much, methinks. Like you'll point out when people are pushing things out there so much in terms of, you know, well, look at this thing that I have. You're able to kind of say to other people, like, hey, they're only really doing that because of this reason. Like, you break through illusions like that. Pile number 3, that is probably a really good way to describe that. I apologize if that was kind of vague, but it's a very specific thing, and so I try my best to explain it. But yeah, you break through illusions for other people with the moon. You know, too, especially with the owl, like owl being wise, you know, the messenger between the spirit and the earth, right? Or death and life, right? Two is the owl is a type of bird. If you've ever seen an owl before, they can rotate their head like almost 360 degrees. You ever seen like an owl turn their head around, right? Like that. They're a bird of great perspective because they can see so well, not only at night because they have night vision, very astute with their eyes, but yeah, that perspective of being able to swivel their head around. You see things in so many different ways and just so much more deeply and so much more accurately and intuitively than other people do. So in the way that terms that makes other people feel, pile number 3s, it's like, I'm sorry I'm reiterating and repeating, but it's like you just have that knowing. People just know that you have that knowing. To be pretty blunt, you see through bullshit. And other people are like, "Whoa, actually that was pretty accurate," because you just come out there and you're like, "Hey, by the way, this thing is bunk," and then they're like, "Oh, wait, it is." So that type of thing. So you make people feel, you make them realize truths is another way to describe that, pile number 3s, okay? That kind of ties into with the Hanged Man. This is the card of different perspectives here. Tying in, like we were talking about, the owl can swivel its head around and also see at night, right? Different perspectives. You help people see from other perspectives. You help people see things upside down so that it makes them realize the right side up, is how I would describe that. You turn things on their head for other people. And you're like, well, wait a minute, let's look at it from this way. And they're like, oh, and then it clicks for other people. So you're really good at making people feel like they can get to the kernel of truth in life. You make other people feel like, you're like pile number 1s this way, where they can come to you and get an objective perspective or different perspectives on certain things. A pretty good devil's advocate, I guess, is another way to describe that for you, pile number 3s. You're really good at that. Yeah, too, with your authenticity, going back into that a little bit. That's another boundary that you help other people set in life is, where does my free will as an individual meet with the will of society in terms of, my direction in life, how I present myself, how I feel in my own skin, that type of thing. You help people set boundaries that way where they protect themselves there with that no card. That's just another way that you uplift and empower people here with your Pearl card too. New ideas too here with the Ace of Swords reversed. Where other people might get kind of stuck in their ideas or stuck in how do I move forward? What's the new way I can maneuver through this? You're the person that can say, well, here, this is a new idea for you. This is a new way to move forward. This is new thought here for them. You make them feel like you're a good person to turn to for ideas. I don't know if maybe even in your particular job, people come to you for new ideas on things. You're really good at, what's the word? The imagery I'm being shown intuitively is you're really good at unblocking blockages. Breaking things like that, and especially in terms of ideas or ways of thinking. I think because of your knowing, pile number 3s. And then 2, here we're here with the 6 of Pentacles or 6 of Stones. That's the card of fairness in terms of the monetary world. The card of balance in distribution of things. So I think you also make people feel like they can come to you, not only with, like we were talking before too, about like the objective perspectives here. You're going to be fair in that way. I think people also know that they can come to you for reliability and fairness in all things. You're a very unbiased person, pile number 3s. I'm getting the sense here. People know that. It's kind of like I'm reiterating once again, but you have what I call a hammer reading, where there's a lot of repeated messages throughout. It's like, yeah, you have an unbiasedness. People know they can come to you for an objective perspective, breaking through those illusions with the moon. Yeah. Yeah, and then balance here 1 second. I'm also going to take a drink. My voice is a little scratchy. My apologies. Bit of a dry climate where I am right now in this particular season. Very cold, very dry. Yeah, fairness. I don't know if you work a job where you deal with fairness. Equal distribution of things, or it's something that you're very passionate about, pile number 3s, with that 6 of Pentacles or Stones. Maybe that's another way that you uplift and help other people set boundaries. Protecting those that aren't getting enough. Yeah, something about that. Could be a government type job, could be a finance type job. I don't know. It depends. A general reading is going to be just a titch different, but yeah, that's what I'm getting from you. And then here too with change. That also leans into, like we're talking about, maybe a little bit of the new ideas that you bring forth to other people with that Ace of Swords here, Ace of Blades, right? On blocking where other people lack new idea or new thought, right? You're able to help them break through those mental blockages, right? But change too in terms of your authenticity, being honest in a way that maybe society pressures us not to be, being honest in the way that you present yourself to other people. Also too, I think you help maybe, it's like you help people feel like they can weather the changes of life a little bit easier because of the perspectives that you bring to them. Like, for example, like let's say you have a friend that comes to you and they just had a breakup, really bad breakup, and they're coming for some comfort and some advice, right? And, they say to you, oh man, I'm so disappointed that this didn't work out. I really wanted to find my true love, etc. That type of thing, typical thoughts we have after a breakup. That's especially heartbreaking, right? And I think you're the type of person that helps them weather that change in terms of, you say to them, well, think about it this way. This relationship not working out is just opening a door for a new, better relationship to come along. So it's like you help them weather that change, or even too, especially with, I think I said this before, I don't know if you had a lot of death in your life, pile number 3 is. I get that, especially with the owl here. Also too, if you are a medium, if you know it or not, pretty strong flashing neon signs, like I said before. I'm pretty sure you have something in that area, right? It could be even that even if you haven't had a lot of death in your life, maybe there's a lot of spirits around you too. Maybe that's what that means by a lot of death in your life, right? Maybe you help people weather through death too. It's almost time I'm getting here. One moment. Yeah, it's just like you help people see even the most terrible things in life in a different way that spins it more positively. Like let's say someone came to you and they said, oh, this loved one of mine died. You're the type of person that would say, well, at least they aren't suffering anymore. You spin things on their head and you make people realize, like, yeah, bad things happen, but especially with tarot, the death card, which you didn't get in this particular reading, but typically the death card in tarot is a card of change, which is funny, you got the change card right in this particular deck. It's a card of change. Things cannot begin and grow again without the death of something else. So that's where you help people see the silver lining in the end, or the changes of things, or the changes of life. Maybe if you have had a lot of death in your life, part of the way you make other people feel is you've been through it so much that you help other people when death comes to their life, be it of a loved one or, maybe a friend or, partner, etc. Like I said, loved one is an umbrella term, but yeah, you help them weather through the hard times of life. You uplift them through that. Like, things are dark, but think about it this way. That's kind of the vibe I get from you, pile number 3. I want to see if there's any other messages here for you before I sign off. Yeah, you make other people feel like they can just accept what comes. That change isn't so bad. It could be too, if you are a practicing medium, pile number 3, if you do speak with the dead, the departed, part of you helping and uplifting others is being a messenger, like the owl between the spirit and the physical. And or if you're not there yet, that's an avenue you're being strongly encouraged to follow and learn about. Very strongly. I think if you aren't already there, if you were to practice mediumship, you probably would be pretty talented at it. I'm being told. So, like I said before, I want to pull maybe one more card here. I want to pull a card on your pile leader with that no and that boundary setting. Spirit for pile number 1s, for pile number 3s. For pile number 3 is for the no card. Could you give me one card explaining a little bit more about that boundary setting that they help other people with? I know we talked about like authenticity and society, but I'll get one more card for you here. I just want to explain that one a little bit more. We have Judgment reversed. Judgment reversed. Interesting. So, different phases of life. Moving up the spiritual ladder or not. Specifically, reversed. It's a card of not moving into a new phase of something quite yet. Oh, what is that? Sorry, one moment. It'll click at me intuitively here in 1 second. Usually it takes just a moment. It's like you help people set boundaries in terms of if they're ready or not for things, is how I would describe that. You make other people feel like it's okay. Okay, so I talked about before where you help people see the silver lining, or like different perspectives on the tragedies of life. But I think you're also really good at making people feel like it's okay to still grieve over something. It's okay to still want to emotionally explore things from the past. It's okay to, and it's not like you encourage them to wallow in grief, because that isn't helpful either, of course, especially as time goes on, we want to be able to, move on to invite new happiness in our lives, right? But you're also the type of person who, it's like you encourage them, you make them feel like they can take time to actually process things, is how I'm being intuitively told, or how I would describe that here with that Judgment card reversed with boundaries. Yeah, you empower them to make them feel like it's okay. It's okay to stay in a certain emotion for a bit. Yeah. It's okay to set that boundary of, I need this time for myself, or I need to reflect on this. Judgment, once again, I'm getting you're getting another death imagery here. Traditionally, the Judgment card in the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot, the typical one you think of when you think of a tarot deck, is literally Judgment Day, and there's like a, I can't remember what angel off the top of my head, forgive me, calling the trumpet and the souls are rising up. We have another death thing here. Once again, I think you're probably a medium if you don't know it. Pile number 3s. Yeah, it's like bringing the spiritual and the physical together. Because that too is a boundary, the veil between, life and death. I don't know, too, maybe if you've had a near-death experience, pile number 3s. I'm sorry, I know this is reading about how you make other people feel, but it could be, too, that you make other people feel like death is okay, because you have had maybe a near-death experience. You give other people hope that there's life beyond. Something there with, I don't know if you're a medium or you had a near-death experience, there's something about death in your life, pile number 3s. I would explore that a little bit more, if you're not immediately sure what I'm talking about, as it pertains to your life, but there's something there. I think you've had a near-death experience or you're a medium. Anyways, I'm sorry. Just really popping out. Yeah, the boundaries, maintaining the boundaries. Yeah, between death and life. It could also be that you work in health. Maybe that's also a way that you're a guardian. That's what they meant. Didn't I say before something about guardian of the gateway? Yeah, that's you. You could also work in health, too. It could be that you affect or make other people feel like nursing them back to health, too. Maybe that's particularly your job. Maybe that's why you've dealt with a lot of death, especially if you work in healthcare, that type of thing. So to summarize really quick, pile number 3 is you're someone that uplifts others. You're someone that empowers them to maintain boundaries in their life. You're someone who helps break through the illusions of society, illusions of life in general, makes people see things from different perspectives, new ideas here, points out the unfairness in their life, brings equal distribution to things for other people in terms of, especially with that 6 of Pentacles, and bringing balance between life and death here. And then also, I won't repeat it again. Something to do with death, near-death experience, mediumship, healthcare, that type of thing. Something there, yeah. Weathering through the changes of life. Seeing things from different perspectives, yeah. If I were to summarize you in one phrase, pile number 3s, it would be that thing I heard earlier, something about guardian of the gateway. Yeah. Opening doors for other people. That type of thing. All right, well, pile number 3s, I hope that reading was helpful for you as always. I wish you a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the next reading. Bye.